Chapter 18. "I'm okay," Clay shouted, picking up his portfolio and then putting it down on the reception desk. Good to go, he thought, but not quite yet. He looked over his shoulder as he went around the desk and saw the one unblocked window glimmering, seeming to float in the thickening gloom with two silhouettes cut into the day's last light. "I'm okay, still okay, just going in to check his office now. Still okay. Still, Clay?" Tom's voice was alarmed, but for a moment Clay couldn't respond and set Tom's mind at rest. There was an overhead light fixture in the middle of the inner office's high ceiling. Mr. Riccardi was hanging from it by what looked like a drape cord. There was a white bag pulled down over his head. Clay thought it was the kind of plastic bag the hotel gave you to put your dirty laundry and dry cleaning in. "Clay, are you all right?" "Clay?" Alice sounded shrill, ready to be hysterical. "Okay," he heard himself say. His mouth seemed to be operating itself, with no help from his brain. "Still right here." He was thinking of how Mr. Riccardi had looked when he said, "I shall stay at my post." The words had been lofty, but the eyes had been scared and somehow humble. The eyes of a small raccoon driven into a corner of the garage by a large and angry dog. "I'm coming out now." He backed away, as if Mr. Riccardi might slip his homemade drape cord noose and come after him the second he turned his back. He was suddenly more than afraid for Sharon and Johnny. He was homesick for them with a depth of feeling that made him think of his first day at school, his mother leaving him at the playground gate. The other parents had walked their kids inside, but his mother said, "You just go in there, Clayton. It's the first room. You'll be fine. Boys should do this part alone." Before he did what she told him, he had watched her going away back up Cedar Street in her blue coat. Now, standing here in the dark, he was renewing acquaintance with the knowledge that the second part of homesick was sick for a reason. Tom and Alice were fine, but he wanted the people he loved. Once he was around the reception desk, he faced the street and crossed the lobby. He got close enough to the long, broken window to see the frightened faces of his new friends, then remembered he'd forgotten his fucking portfolio again and had to go back. Reaching for it, he felt certain that Mr. Riccardi's hand would steal out of the gathering darkness behind the desk and close over his. That didn't happen, but from overhead came another of those thumps. Something still up there, something still blundering around in the dark, something that had been human until 3 o'clock this afternoon. This time, when he was halfway to the door, the lobby's single battery-powered emergency lights stuttered briefly, then went out. "That's a fire code violation," Clay thought. "I ought to report that." He handed out his portfolio. Tom took it. "Where is he?" Alice asked. "Wasn't he there?" "Dead," Clay said. It had crossed his mind to lie, but he didn't think he was capable. He was too shocked by what he had seen. How did a man hang himself? He didn't see how it was even possible. Suicide. Alice began to cry, and it occurred to Clay that she didn't know that if it had been up to Mr. Riccardi, she'd probably be dead herself now. The thing was, he felt a little like crying himself. Because Mr. Riccardi had come around, maybe most people did, if they got a chance. From west of them, on the darkening street back toward the common, came a scream that seemed too great to have issued from human lungs. It sounded to Clay almost like the trumpeting of an elephant. There was no pain in it, and no joy. There was only madness. Alice cringed against him, and he put an arm around her. The feel of her body was like the feel of an electrical wire with a strong current passing through it. "If we're going to get out of here, let's do it," Tom said. "If we don't run into too much trouble, we should be able to get as far north as Malden and spend the night at my place." "It's a hell of a good idea," Clay said. Tom smiled cautiously. "You really think so?" "I really do. Who knows? Maybe Officer Ashland's already there." "Who is Officer Ashland?" Alice asked. "A policeman we met back by the common," Tom said. "He, helped us out." The three of them were now walking east toward Atlantic Avenue, through the falling ash and the sound of alarms. "We won't see him, though. Clay's just trying to be funny." "Oh," she said. "I'm glad somebody's trying to be." Lying on the pavement by a litter barrel was a blue cell phone with a cracked casing. Alice kicked it into the gutter without breaking stride. "Good one," Clay said. Alice shrugged. 5 years of soccer, she said. And at that moment the streetlights came on, like a promise that all was not yet lost. 19. Tom had his trilby. There was a hood on Alice's poncho, and Tom had found Clay a Red Sox cap that would keep his head dry for a while at least. If the light rain didn't get heavier, and if it did, well, the forage shouldn't be a problem, as Alice had pointed out. That would surely include foul weather gear. From the slight elevation of the porch, they could see roughly 2 blocks of Salem Street. It was impossible to be sure in the failing light, but it appeared completely deserted, except for a few bodies and the food litter the crazies had left behind. Each of them was wearing a knife, seated in scabbards Clay had made. If Tom was right about the Nickersons, they would soon be able to do better. Clay hoped so. He might be able to use a butcher knife from Soul Kitchen again, but he still wasn't sure he would be able to use it in cold blood. Alice held a flashlight in her left hand. She looked to make sure Tom had one too and nodded. "Okay," she said. "You take us to the Nickerson house, right?" "Right," Tom said. "And if we see someone on our way, we stop right away and put our lights on them." She looked at Tom, then Clay, with some anxiety. They had been over this before. Clay guessed she was probably obsessed the same way before big tests, and of course this was a very big one. "Right," Tom said. "We say, our names are Tom, Clay, and Alice. We're normal. What are your names?" Clay said, "If they have flashlights like us, we can almost assume." "We can't assume anything," she said restlessly, querulously. "My father says assume makes an ass out of you and me. Get it? You and I get it," Clay said. Alice brushed at her eyes, although whether to wipe away rain or tears, Clay wasn't sure. He wondered briefly and painfully if Johnny was somewhere crying for him right now. Clay hoped he was. He hoped his son was still capable of tears, of memory. "If they can answer, if they can say their names, they're fine and they're probably safe," Alice said, "right?" "Right," Clay said. "Yeah," Tom agreed a little absently. He was looking at the street where there were no people and no bobbing flashlight beams near or far. Someplace in the distance, gunshots popped. They sounded like fireworks. The air stank of burning and char and had all day. Clay thought they were smelling it more strongly now because it was wet. He wondered how long before the smell of decaying flesh turned the fog hanging over Boston into a reek. He supposed it depended on how warm the days ahead turned out to be. "If we meet normal people and they ask us what we're doing or where we're going, remember the story," she said. "We're looking for survivors," Tom said. "That's right, because they're our friends and neighbors. Any people we meet will be just passing through. They'll want to keep moving. Later on, we'll probably want to hook up with other normal people because there's safety in numbers, but right now we'd like to get to those guns," Clay said. "If there are any guns to get. Come on, Alice, let's do this." She looked worriedly at him. "What's wrong? What am I missing?" "You can tell me. I know I'm just a kid." Patiently as he could, with nerves that felt like overtuned guitar strings, Clay said, "There's nothing wrong with it, honey. I just want to get rolling." "I don't think we're going to see anyone anyway. I think it's too soon." "I hope you're right," she said. "My hair's a mess and I've chipped a nail." They looked at her silently for a moment, then laughed. After that, it was better among them and stayed better until the end. 20. "No," Alice said. She made a gagging sound. No, I can't." A louder gagging sound. "Then I'm going to throw up. I'm sorry." She plunged out of the Coleman's glare and into the gloom of the Nickersons' living room, which adjoined the kitchen via a wide arch. Clay heard a soft thump as she went to her knees on the carpet, then more gagging. A pause, a gasp, and then she was vomiting. He was almost relieved. "Oh, Christ," Tom said. He pulled in a long, gasping breath, and this time spoke in a wavering exhalation that was nearly a howl. "Oh, Christ." "Tom," Clay said. He saw how the little man was swaying on his feet, and understood he was on the verge of fainting. Why not? These bloody leavings had been his neighbors. "Tom!" He stepped between Tom and the 2 bodies on the kitchen floor. Between Tom and most of the spattered blood, which looked as black as India ink in the Coleman's unforgiving white glare. He tapped the side of Tom's face with his free hand. "Don't pass out." And when he saw Tom steady on his feet, he dropped his voice a little. "Go on in the other room and take care of Alice. I'll take care of the kitchen." "Why would you want to go in there?" Tom asked. "That's Beth Nickerson with her brains all over." He swallowed. There was an audible click in his throat. "Most of her face is gone, but I recognized the blue jumper with the white snowflakes on it. And that's Heidi on the floor by the center island, their daughter. I recognize her, even with..." He shook his head as if to clear it, then repeated, "Why would you want to?" "I'm pretty sure I see what we came for," Clay said. He was astounded by how calm he sounded. "In the kitchen?" Tom tried to look past him, and Clay moved to block his view. "Trust me, you see to Alice. If she can, you two start looking around for more guns. Shout if you hit pay dirt. And be careful, Mr. Nickerson may be here too. I mean, we could assume he was at work when all this went down, but as Alice's dad says, assume makes an ass out of you and me," Tom said. He managed a sickly smile. "Gotcha." He started to turn away, then turned back. "I don't care where we go, Clay, but I don't want to stay here any longer than we have to. I didn't exactly love Arnie and Beth Nickerson, but they were my neighbors, and they treated me a hell of a lot better than that idiot Scatoni from around the block." "Understood." Tom snapped on his flashlight and went into the Nickerson living room. Clay heard him murmuring to Alice, comforting her. Steeling himself, Clay walked into the kitchen with the Coleman lantern held up, stepping around the puddles of blood on the hardwood floor. It had dried now, but he didn't want to put his shoes in any more of it than he had to. The girl lying on her back by the center island had been tall, but both her pigtails and the angular lines of her body suggested a child 2 or 3 years younger than Alice. Her head was cocked at a strenuous angle, almost a parody of interrogation, and her dead eyes bulged. Her hair had been broomstraw blonde, but all of it on the left side of her head, the side that had taken the blow which had killed her, was now the same dark maroon as the stains on the floor. Her mother reclined below the counter to the right of the stove, where the handsome cherrywood cabinets came together to form a corner. Her hands were ghost white with flour, and her bloody, bitten legs were indecorously splayed. Once, before starting work on a limited-run comic called Battle Hell, Clay had accessed a selection of fatal gunshot photos on the web, thinking there might be something he could use. There was not. Gunshot wounds spoke a terrible blank language of their own, and here it was again. Beth Nickerson was mostly spraying gristle from her left eye on up. Her right eye had drifted into the upper orbit of its socket, as if she had died trying to look into her own head. Her back hair and a good deal of her brain matter was caked on the cherrywood cabinet against which she had leaned in her brief moments of dying. A few flies were buzzing around her. Clay began to gag. He turned his head and covered his mouth. He told himself he had to control himself. In the other room, Alice had stopped vomiting. In fact, he could hear her and Tom talking together as they moved deeper into the house, and he didn't want to get her going again. Think of them as dummies, props in a movie, he told himself, but he knew he could never do that. When he looked back, he looked at the other things on the floor instead. That helped. The gun he had already seen. The kitchen was spacious, and the gun was all the way on the other side, lying between the fridge and one of the cabinets with the barrel sticking out. His first impulse on seeing the dead woman and the dead girl had been to avert his eyes. They'd happened on the gun barrel purely by accident. But maybe I would have known there had to be a gun. He even saw where it had been, a wall-mounted clip between the built-in TV and the industrial-sized can opener. They were gadget nuts as well as gun nuts, Tom had said, and a wall-mounted pistol in your kitchen just waiting to leap into your hand. Why, if that wasn't the best of both worlds, what was? Clay? That was Alice, coming from some distance. What? There followed the sound of feet quickly ascending a set of stairs. Then Alice called from the living room. Tom said you wanted to know if we hit pay dirt. We just did. There must be a dozen guns downstairs in the den, rifles and pistols both. They're in a cabinet with an alarm company sticker on it, so we'll probably get arrested. That's a joke. Are you coming? In a minute, hon. Don't come out here. Don't worry. Don't you stay there and get grossed out. He was beyond grossed out, far beyond. There were 2 other objects lying on the bloody hardwood floor of the Nickerson kitchen. One was a rolling pin, which made sense. There was a pie tin, a mixing bowl, and a cheery yellow canister marked flour sitting on the center island. The other object on the floor, this one lying not too distant from one of Heidi Nickerson's hands, was a cell phone only a teenager could love, blue with big orange daisy decals plastered all over it. Clay could see what had happened, little as he wanted to. Beth Nickerson is making a pie. Does she know something awful has started to happen in Greater Boston, in America, maybe in the world? Is it on TV? If so, the TV didn't send her a crazygram. Clay was sure of that. Her daughter got one, though. Oh, yes. And Heidi had attacked her mother. Did Beth Nickerson try to reason with her daughter before driving her to the floor with a blow from the rolling pin, or did she just strike? Not in hate, but in pain and fear. In any case, it wasn't enough. And Beth wasn't wearing pants. She was wearing a jumper, and her legs were bare. Clay pulled down the dead woman's skirt. He did it gently, covering the plain working-at-home underwear that she had soiled at the end. Heidi, surely no older than 14 and perhaps only 12, must have been growling in that savage nonsense language they seemed to learn all at once after they got a full dose of Sane Be Gone from their phones, saying things like Rast and Ela and Kazala Ken. The first blow from the rolling pin had knocked her down, but not out, and the mad girl had begun to work in her mother's legs. Not little nips either, but deep, searing bites, some that had driven all the way to the bone. Clay could see not only tooth marks, but ghostly tattoos that must have been left by young Heidi's braces. And so, probably screaming, undoubtedly in agony, almost certainly not aware of what she was doing, Beth Nickerson had struck again, this time much harder. Clay could almost hear the muffled crack as the girl's neck broke. Beloved daughter, dead on the floor of the state-of-the-art kitchen with braces on her teeth and her state-of-the-art cell phone by one outstretched hand. And her mother stopped to consider before popping the gun from its clip between the TV and the can opener, where it had been waiting for who knew how long for a burglar or rapist to appear in this clean, well-lighted kitchen. Clay thought not. Clay thought there would have been no pause, that she would have wanted to catch up with her daughter's fleeing soul, while the explanation for what she had done was still fresh on her lips. Clay went to the gun and picked it up. From a gadget boy like Arnie Nickerson, he would have expected an automatic, maybe even one with a laser sight, but this was a plain old Colt 45 revolver. He supposed it made sense. His wife might feel more comfortable with this kind of gun. No nonsense about making sure it was loaded if the gun was needed. Parentheses, or wasting time fishing a clip out from behind the spatulas or spices if it wasn't, close parentheses. Then racking the slide to make sure there was a hot one in the chamber. No. With this old whore, he just had to swing the barrel out, which Clay did with ease. He'd drawn 1,000 variations of this very gun for Dark Wanderer. As he'd expected, only one of the 6 chambers was empty. He shook out one of the other loads, knowing just what he would find. Beth Nickerson's 45 was loaded with highly illegal cop-killer bullets, fraggers. No wonder the top of her head was gone. The wonder was that she had any left at all. He looked down at the remains of the woman leaning in the corner and began to cry. Clay? That was Tom, coming up the stairs from the basement. Man, Arnie had everything. There's an automatic weapon that would have gotten him a stretch in Walpole, I bet. Clay, are you all right? I'm coming, Clay said, wiping his eyes. He safetied the revolver and stuck it in his belt. Then he took off the knife and laid it on Beth Nickerson's counter, still in its homemade scabbard. It seemed they were trading up. Give me 2 more minutes. Yeah. Clay heard Tom, clumping back to Arnie Nickerson's downstairs armory, and smiled in spite of the tears still running down his face. Here was something he would have to remember. Give a nice little gay guy from Malden a room full of guns to play with. He starts to say yo, just like Sylvester Stallone. Clay started going through drawers. In the third one he tried, he found a heavy red box marked American Defender, 45 caliber, American Defender, 50 rounds. It was under the dish towels. He put the box in his pocket and went to join Tom and Alice. He wanted to get out of here now and as quickly as possible. The trick would be getting them to go without trying to take Arnie Nickerson's entire gun collection along. Halfway through the arch, he paused and glanced back, holding the Coleman lantern high, looking at the bodies. Pulling down the skirt of the woman's jumper hadn't helped much. They were still just corpses, their wounds as naked as Noah when his son had come upon him in liquor. He could find something to cover them with, but once he started covering bodies, where would it end? Where? With Sharon? With his son? God forbid, he whispered, but he doubted that God would simply because he asked. He lowered the lantern and followed the dancing glow of flashlights downstairs to Tom and Alice. Chapter 21. They both wore belts with large caliber handguns in the holsters, and these were automatics. Tom had also slung an ammunition bandolier over his shoulder. Clay didn't know whether to laugh or start crying again. Part of him felt like doing both at the same time. Of course, if he did that, they would think he was having hysterics, and of course they would be right. The plasma TV mounted on the wall down here was the big, very big brother of the one in the kitchen. Another TV, only slightly smaller, had a multi-brand video game hookup Clay would, once upon a time, have loved to examine. To fawn over, maybe. As if to balance it off, a vintage Seabright jukebox stood in the corner next to the Nickersons' ping-pong table, all its fabulous colors dark and dead. And of course there were the gun cabinets, 2 of them, still locked, but with their glass fronts broken. There were locking bars, but he had a toolbox in his garage, Tom said. Alice used a wrench to break them off. They were cookies, Alice said modestly. This was in the garage behind the toolbox, wrapped in a piece of blanket. Is it what I think it is? She picked it up off the ping-pong table, holding it carefully by the wire stalk, and carried it over to Clay. Holy shit, he said. This is... He squinted at the embossing above the trigger guard. I think it's Russian. I'm sure it is, Tom said. Do you think it's a Kalashnikov? You got me. Are there bullets that match it? In boxes that match the printing on the gun, I mean? 6 heavy boxes. It's a machine gun, isn't it? You might as well call it that, I guess. Clay flicked a lever. I'm pretty sure one of these positions is single shot and the other is auto fire. How many rounds does it fire a minute? Alice asked. I don't know, Clay said, but I think it's rounds per second. Whoa. Her eyes got round. Can you figure out how to shoot it? Alice, I'm pretty sure they teach 16-year-old farm boys how to shoot these. Yes, I can figure it out. It might take a box of ammo, but I can figure it out. Please, gosh, don't let it blow up in my hands, he thought. Is something like that legal in Massachusetts, she asked. It is now, Alice, Tom said, not smiling. Is it time to go? Yes, she said, and then, perhaps still not entirely comfortable being the one to make the decision, she looked at Clay. Yes, he said, north. Fine with me, Alice said. Yeah, Tom said north. Let's do it.